You know, he's a very nice guy, but nobody's done anything. And I've been watching this go on for years.
Most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for...
Well, that's what's happening in England right now, isn't it?
It 100% is. It 100% is.
That's really happening?
Yes, it's really happening. You can't give people that much control. You can't give people that much control over what offends them or what offends people, what you could say, what you can't.
In the UK, free speech is increasingly being viewed as a crime, with a recent incident involving a veteran being arrested for praying in public. This arrest, which was not a protest or act of violence, highlights the tightening of personal freedoms, particularly in terms of speech and expression, which has been a topic of discussion.
Every episode, they'd be waiting outside of your...
Yeah, here's the thing, man. This is a new thing. This wasn't England 10 years ago, all right? This is a new thing. And it's a scary thing. It's a really scary thing. They arrested thousands of people for social media posts. Thousands.
JD Vance, a U.S. politician and author, highlighted the arrest of a man as an example of the UK's slipping into authoritarianism. He argued that the arrest was not just about a man praying, but about a system becoming increasingly intolerant of dissent and free expression. Vance argued that governments are stifling personal freedoms under the guise of protecting society, which is increasingly happening in the UK.
And I tell you, you're talking about JD's speech, right?
Yes, sir.
I heard his speech, and he talked about freedom of speech, and I think it's true in Europe. They're losing their wonderful right of freedom of speech. I see it. I mean, I thought he made a very good speech, actually, a very brilliant speech. Yeah. Europe.
Joe Rogan, a staunch advocate for free speech, has expressed concern about the increasing number of arrests or punishments for online statements. He believes this trend is a concerning trend where people are afraid to express their opinions due to fear of legal consequences, highlighting the decline of free speech in the UK. Rogan's outspoken views highlight the growing fear of law enforcement imposing harsh consequences on those who express their beliefs online.
Government is that it's actually an offer to work together to not just fix a problem, but to restore what has always been true about the special relationship of the United States and the UK, and that is, first and foremost, we're going to recognize individuals as sovereign, and especially when it comes to their right to worship, particularly.
Rogan and Vance argue that freedom of speech is under threat globally, particularly in the UK, where citizens can face fines or jails for content made on social media or in public spaces. They warn that this growing issue could spread beyond the UK, and that, if not addressed, it could lead to a larger conversation about governments reducing personal freedoms. Rogan and Vance urge the UK to take a serious look at its direction, as free speech is not just a political issue, but also about the ability to be heard without fear of punishment.
Just terrible government overreach. You're seeing it now in England where people are getting arrested for tweets.
Yeah.
Well, England, you know, people talk about Soviet Russia, like how bad Russia is in terms of cracking down on thought police and cracking down on bad tweets and things like that. I think the statistics are, I think England I think there's something like 4,000 people have been arrested in England for thought crimes, where they've said things online that people find to be a hateful thing. Or
JD Vance has criticized UK Labour Party leader Keir Starmer for his handling of immigration, arguing that his policies are putting the nation's security and resources at risk. Vance believes that Starmer's approach allows immigrants to enter the Keir UK without proper vetting, highlighting the need for adequate background checks to ensure no threat to citizens or institutions.
Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizen suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in.
Vance's concerns extend beyond security, highlighting practical issues when immigrants are granted benefits without full identification. The UK's social services are burdened by individuals who may not be legally documented, weakening the system for everyone. Allowing unidentified individuals access healthcare, welfare, and housing weakens the system for everyone, straining public resources unsustainably. This policy could fracture the safety nets that the US-UK prides itself on providing to its citizens. Vance criticizes Starmer for prioritizing political correctness over practical vetting and control over compassion for refugees and immigrants. He believes the balance has shifted too far in favor of idealism, overlooking the challenges these policies create for UK society. Vance believes that the Labour leader's stance is blind to the challenges these policies create for the country.
Cannot rebuild Western civilization. We cannot rebuild the United States of America or Europe by letting millions and millions of unvetted illegal migrants come into our country. It has to stop. Thank God it stopped here, but it's got to stop there.
Joe Rogan, a UK immigration policy expert, shares Vance's concerns about overly weak policies. He cites the UK's approach and America's border security issues as examples. Rogan argues that inadequate border security not only strains social systems, but also poses a significant threat to national security. He advocates for transparency and accountability in the immigration process.
People threaten people online, which totally makes sense. So
Yeah.
You shouldn't be allowed to threaten people online. But when you get past that, if you have an opinion about something, something that's affecting the country that you live in, I think you should be able to express yourself. And I don't necessarily think that people should know that it's you. I don't think you should have to carry that around. Like, you should be able to express yourself and not have to.
Online threats are acceptable, but it's important to be cautious when expressing opinions about a country-affecting issue. It's not necessary to reveal who you are, and people should not know that you're threatening them. It's important to be able to express yourself without fear of being perceived as someone else.
Do you have any reaction, Prime Minister, to a post by Elon Musk this morning suggesting that America should liberate Britain from a tyrannical government?
In relation to that, I don't really have any comment on the particular comment that was made this morning by.
The UK's failure to secure borders and manage immigration effectively is putting the country in danger socially and economically. The issue of free speech and immigration has gained attention from US figures like Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, who believe it is suffocating freedom and undermining Western society's principles. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, has also criticized the UK's approach to free speech, highlighting the need for a more robust approach to immigration and free speech in the UK. A UK government defender of free expression has criticized the government for limiting citizens' freedom of speech, arguing that such policies harm democracy and set a dangerous precedent for other countries. He uses his social media presence to highlight these issues, emphasizing that free speech is a fundamental right that must be protected, regardless of political or social climate.
As well.
And acting as the bridge he wants to, or he could be humiliated and Trump could be really mean to him and he could come home with his tail between his legs. So the scale of achievement is potentially massive. It is a critical week for Keir Starmer and his premiership.
Do you know, I'd love to be a fly on the wall and to watch Starmer as he waits to go into the Oval Office.
Well, it wouldn't be beyond Trump and Musk to keep him waiting, would it? And of course, that would leak as well. So if they did want to humiliate him, there's nothing worse than sitting outside the headmaster's study, if you like, for half an hour until you're called in. Hopefully that won't happen to the Prime Minister.
And I think that's right. The optics of this definitely are the head boy going to see the headmaster.
Joe Rogan, a podcaster and a staunch advocate for free speech, has expressed concern over the UK's handling of controversial issues, particularly censorship. He believes that individuals are being arrested or fined for sharing their opinions, online, whether political or religious. Rogan sees this as a threat to democracy and warns that if this continues, it could have a ripple effect on other countries. He emphasizes the importance of public discourse in a healthy society and believes the UK's crackdown on free expression is dangerous. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, is facing a critical week in his premiership, with the possibility of being humiliated or even mean towards Trump. The scale of achievement is potentially massive, and it is a critical week for him to achieve his goals. The optics of this situation are concerned that the Prime Minister may be humiliated by sitting outside the headmaster's study for half an hour until he is called in. The scale of achievement is potentially massive, and it is essential to monitor the situation closely to ensure the Prime Minister's well-being. Trump, the former US president, has expressed concerns about the UK's political direction, citing the government's increasing control over speech and a clampdown on individual freedoms. Trump believes these actions are not just a threat to the UK, but also to the values of free speech and liberty that Western democracies have long been built on. He argues that if left unchecked, these policies could spread to other parts of the world, eroding the foundations of Western democracies. 3 UK figures, Mike Rogan and Trump, are using their platforms to raise global concerns about the UK's increasingly punishing system for free speech. This indicates that the UK's political climate is being closely monitored, and the US is increasingly pressured to ensure its rights are not compromised.
But he asked to come and see me, and I just accepted his asking.
Do you have a date for that, sir? What do you hope to
Very soon. I think he wants to come next week or the week after.
And what do you hope to discuss?
I don't know. It was his request, not mine, but, I met him twice already.
The UK's policies are being criticized by global figures like Musk, Rogan, and Trump, leading to calls for public awareness and action. The UK government is now unable to ignore these calls for change, and the question remains whether it will continue down the path of authoritarianism, risking its place as a beacon of free speech in the world. The message is that the UK must take heed of these warnings or risk losing its place as a beacon of free speech.